Hey, welcome everybody. It is our second and fourth Tuesday MC2 and up call. My name is Mark. My lovely wife and I, Krista and me, is that grammatically correct? Krista and me. We were introduced to Life Vantage 15 years ago. And some of the first people that we met came to do a premiere school for us. The wonderful, lovely, and talented Dave and Joanne Matteson. And Dave and Joe are presenting tonight on the topic of how do I launch my team into this new year of 2026? And so I could tell a lot about how awesome they are. We probably have some stories that we can talk about getting stranded on lakes in boats, but you want to hear how to grow your business and how to launch your team in 2026. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring in Uncle Dave, as he's known to my kiddos, and we'll just freewheel it. If you know an MC2 or above that should be on this call, please reach out to them and let them know this is going to be awesome because it is. I know these guys, and always super quality content with Dave and Joe. So, Uncle Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mr. Mark. So good to see you.
How's the Bills Mafia this 2026?
I tell you, it's not a bad week. Let's put it that way.
No, no, not at all. I know we
Trying to
have
figure out when Rob is going to land in Denver to go put on a Bills jacket and go to the Bills game with me.
smashing tables. Hey, talk to us about before we launch into the content. Tell a little bit of your story because I know we've got some folks that are on that might not have heard that story before, and you guys were in at the very beginning, and this actually wasn't your first rodeo. Is that right?
That is correct. We got a whole lot of scars, and it was 12 years in Amway when we were kids and getting married, and it was one of the first conferences we ever missed. Was a conference that was going on our wedding day, and we actually had our upline say, "Yeah, why don't you postpone your wedding by a week or so?" I'm like, that ain't happening. I'm getting married in a month. But that was the start of understanding the principles of behavior that we're talking about, and so we tried 12 years of that business, couldn't make $500 a month at our top. But honestly and truthfully, it was 12 years of a master's program in life and business. And, we moved out here to Colorado and launched a business and retired in 9 years. So we took those principles and parlayed them into a traditional business in the HVAC industry. And from there, got lassoed after 10 years of talking to everybody about, yes, how great the industry is, find the right one. And no, I'm not interested and never will be because that was the pinky swear we had taken between my wife and I. Um, well, when you were cranking out a business and it was making serious money and enough to call it quits after 9 years, there was no reason to look elsewhere at a flawed system of business that we failed at miserably for 12 years. So it was a hard get go for us to even think about what we're talking about here. And it was really, people like Tyler and Marcel that when they came into our lives, they were wise enough to the matter to realize, hey, we've traveled all those roads, but give us 6 months. If there's anything that you liked about the industry, let's take 6 months and let's rethink how you did it in the past, and let's find ourselves a place where common ground is going to prove that you don't have to go by the old school philosophy. And the old school philosophy never changed. In fact, we're still teaching it today here in Building Depth, and that's where the origin of Building Depth really came from. But what had shifted was how corporately it is actually financed. And so, because we were able to gain confidence in the corporation, we were able to gain confidence in the evidence of all natural products. We were able to wrap our head around this and say, okay, I'll give you 6 months. And we were making $3,000 a month in 6 months. And it was enough for us to say, okay, I guess this is for real. So I set our goals to do it for 90 days, and then I set it to do it for a year. So Marcel got the 6 months or 3 months out of me, and that turned it into 6 months after I retired. And that was where we we launched in full bore. We launched in full bore because one, I was moving away from my industry, so it was perfect timing from that aspect, and I was willing to go all in, even though we hadn't made any money in our previous ventures, but we went all in because we knew I had a nut to crack. There's every household and every business has this is your bare must. You have to create enough revenue to meet this point. There's your bare nut. So I knew what we needed, and it was $5,000. So I didn't start going into any investment accounts or savings accounts, and that so I wanted to go positive out of this retirement mindset. So that's how we got launched. That's how we entrusted people like Tyler and Marcel, and we've been with a couple of companies with Tyler and Marcel. But every time that they decided, we decided, I decided to actually make a switch to a new gig, it was driven purely on the fact that the immoral and unethical standard of that company had diminished to a point where I personally was not willing to sacrifice my reputation in my life to accommodate a paycheck. And so, we were giving up seven, eight, $10,000 checks, and yet at the same token, Marcel and Tyler were giving up those 50, 60, $150,000 checks,
Man.
right? And I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's one thing to walk away from a $5,000 check, but $150,000 check, I've never done that. I walked away from a $250,000 job, but I never walked away from a paycheck that was my business, and now I'm walking away with nothing. That was not in my repertoire. So that's how we started, and that's how we met the wonderful Harris family. And Joe and I showed up and at our first LVA. They were called Premier Schools in Kansas City.
That's right.
And we met these lovely folk, and Joe and I walked in with. Do you guys remember the movie Up, the cartoon movie Up? Well, Joe and I flew into that conference room of about 100 people with our goggles on and our air hats on and our balloons, and we were just going to make a whole lot of people really have a fun day, and we did.
You did.
We made
They,
we made
they,
a we made a whole statement because we were doing what we're talking about here today, but it wasn't scripted. There wasn't, when I told Marcel, what do we do? Well, you do what you've been doing forever from your years with Dexter Yeager and then with us and now with, yes, it's just do the same thing. So, and it falls a lot into what we're talking about tonight, where the subject matter being, how do we launch our business, quote unquote, in 2026? Well, there's really two facets we're really talking about, in my opinion. The first one is what you and I do to launch our business. So setting goals on what we want to accomplish is one thing. But we also realize that there's a whole lot of myth to that standard, where you and I are often interested in setting goals so we start to achieve forward steps in life. This business is highly, highly controlled by someone else's efforts. That you can't control that volunteer. You can only incentivize that volunteer. So different than the employees that we would have as a boss person, it's a completely different swing. That being said, that new person that Dave and Joanne are bringing in, just like you can look in the mirror and say the same thing about yourself, that new person that you guys are bringing in is how you personally set your personal goals. And to have 2, 5, 8, 10 people in your mindset of, okay, in the month of January, in the month of February, we're going to have this many new people. That's a personal goal that you can hold yourself accountable to. That's what you have to do yourself personally. On the other side of this equation is the whole aspect of you can say old people, the treaded, the people that are the people that are already customers or consultants or are halfway into the fold of understanding what's going on. How do we move them forward? And that's where you and I become the leader, which is why you're on this call. So to actually launch our business in 2026, we need to think about it from a perspective of how are we going to get your people into that mode? How are we going to get your people into the growing aspect? So if you got to build out 5 MC1s to get yourself above to an MC3 yourself, okay, that's 10,000 a pop. You got to find 4 people. That's 40,000 plus your own volume. You're gonna build a spread that's going to qualify. And that spread is going to be a variation all the way through every month. But what is significant is when you are actually physically talking to that person and explaining to them that their goals are only to do some simple steps and procedures. Now you're in a place where they're looking at the smaller obstacle, and they're looking at bigger aspirations. But the aspirations aren't going to be controlled by them like you and I realize, because it's going to be controlled by their organizational structure. Okay, so when we're talking about the old people, the clubbers, the people that have already walked through their hot list, where are we going to stretch them into that environment? Well, I ran a leadership conversation with a leadership team of ours back around the holiday when I was talking about your 2026 goals that you're going to be setting here in the next couple of days. Let's start in December, and that's when we started this conversation. And so I started talking to them about the simplicity of that 3-way application and why it is absolutely the master step of every successful person that has ever built this business. And it's because you're parlaying the skills and the reputation of others into your sphere of success. You don't have to have all the answers. The one that doesn't have the answers but knows where to go to get them is the one that walks with great success. They prove it over and over and over and over. You don't have to have all the answers. But if you don't know where to go get them, you're stymied. You're done. You have no value to the company. You have no value to your household unless you know where to go get that resolution. When my dryer or my washer goes out and I hear it spinning and making a whole lot of sound, how many of us know that that's a transmission and a bearing problem, and it's costly? Sometimes it's one of those equations of it's going to be too much to fix versus we're getting a new one, right? Okay, well that's knowing where to go to figure that out is worth way more than you having the ability to actually turn the wrench to disassemble that sucker, right? So in this business, all we're really going to focus on is how to get that person, whether it's new, an older person, a younger person, a skilled person, get whoever they are into a conversation. And if you focus on getting them to a point of a conversation, they don't feel the intimidation of it. Because the out of that conversation is always driven into the outside relationships of you and I. And by teaching them that communication into how do I get a hold of a Mark Harris? How do I get a hold of my upline? When the conversation starts and you're walking people into the experience of understanding, regardless of whether they've taken the product or not, you're walking them through the experience of understanding enough to have that 20-second understanding of the product or the business or the lifestyle, wherever the conversation is going, to the second question or second comment coming back to, you know what? I just got off the phone with a guy out of Kansas City. I just got on the phone with a guy who's a successful business guy out of Vegas. And this is what I realized really quick. He's got a whole lot more answers than I do. Hold the phone for 1 second. Rob, hey, you got a second? I got a guy here as ugly as me. He's shorter than short. He can't walk and chew gum at the same time, but he is really, really interested in hearing how business rolls through this network marketing industry. Can you take 15 minutes with a guy? Yeah. So regardless of what I know, how well I describe him, how well I actually communicate to Rob to set it up, Rob's going to give him 15 minutes, and that guy's going to know, oh my gosh, either I can do this, I know a guy that is doing this, and I think I know somebody that will do this, which is the only thing you have to overcome in getting them forward into one, making their first order, making their first list of people, and starting a conversation with somebody else. So I did this. I did this 2 days ago on a three-way call with a mother and a son, and the son just turned 18, and classic, just an absolute classic. The kid has ADD, ADD. The kid couldn't stand still, but he is so freaking ambitious. He's already got cars that he's 18. He's 18. He doesn't own a car, but he has two cars that he rents out to other people already. They call that Uber. And he's doing it without him owning a car. Now that's someone that's got some gonads, right? So I take an hour with this kid, and oh my gosh, it was like watching a circus. He was walking around his house. He was making a sandwich, and it was that freaking thick. He had 3 layers of bread. Three layers of bread and bologna in between each one of them. And I think he used up a half a squirt or a quart of Chick-fil-A sauce. While I'm on the screen this close to it, I could tell you if it was an olive loaf or it was just plain bologna. And this kid, all he got out of it was, okay, so my homework assignment is to go to my mom, have her get me into the back office, and take down one sentence or one nugget on each product. So when I walk into a conversation, I can talk about an Axio, a Nerf 2, da-da. I just need to take simple notes on just 2 or 3 words on what that product does. I said, yep. And then what do I do? When you walk into the circle and they're talking about health or they're talking about wealth, and I talked about both those circumstances in a little more detail, I said, you say, you know what? I got a guy. I got a gal. My mom. Hold on. And he said, so the end of the call, this Mr. ADD kid says, okay, so I got it. My only assignment is to go take a simple note on each one of our products, what they are and how do I pronounce them, and write down what they do in just 20 and 10 seconds. And then connect them in a conversation to you and her and her and her and her. I said, that's all you got to do. Oh, I can do that. Right? All I've taken out is, let's be honest with you, there's nobody here that has less influence than that kid that's just turned 18. That kid has got that much, and everyone has more than the screen, right? Whether you believe it or not is a whole other story. But no one's going to convince me that they have less influence in their life than this kid who's only 18 years old. So when we talk about launching your business, are we launching our brand new people into a directive that is causing them a whole lot of strife and anxiety? Or are we launching them into a parallel of simplicity? I think simplicity is way more productive. I know it is. So the simpler we make it, the easier it is for it to duplicate. So when I talked to some leaders in our organization, and we had another executive break 2 months ago, I guess it was December, she broke. And I said to the upline leadership, I said, who is this gal? And he's like, I don't know. I've never met her. I said, now you are a real executive. Because your teaching and training has developed an organization of a half dozen different executives that now are developing their own executives, and you don't know them. Welcome to the club. Is that what you want? You want pure duplication. Then why do we always make it more complex than it really is? Because there isn't anybody out there that doesn't want to talk to be heard. And because we're all humans, it's what we we want to do. Why? Because we think the more that we can hear ourselves, we have more to influence others for good. It's not a bad quality. But how many times have we had circumstances where these kids are on their phone the whole blasted time they're talking, and half the time they're investigating who Steve Fife is, all the stuff while they're talking to you. Yeah, okay. All right. I think my mom should hear about this. Can you talk to her? Yep. Get her on the phone. And that's why building depth exists. That's why we practice it on a daily basis. That's why the corporation throws a Marcel point on Saturday for that same message. When we have people that are still disputing whether building depth is for real or not, but yet they're an executive that practice the principles of it, but won't acknowledge the fact that this is where it's been driven from over and over and over again. And his name is Marcel and Tyler Daniels. Why? Because that's the only way they've ever built in any business. I can tell you the biggest challenge that people that have businesses, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, is not finding employees, but finding managers that can manage those employees. There's the problem. And when you find that guy, I don't care what their past is, if they have the ability to control an organizational staff member, you pay them as much as you can. As much as you can. So in our gig, your launch process is the same one you use every day, every week, every month, regardless of whether it's January or December and anywhere in between. It stems completely from your ability to simplify the task by your example for the brand new person. That's all I teach people. I don't care what the next event is. I don't care. I'm going to show by example the crowd. So I had two people on the phone call prior to this call because Joanne's running a leadership meeting for our outside organizations tonight, doing this subject matter, bringing on one of our up and coming to actually be on the call, speaking on the call. And I called two people directly, even though the mass text and right on the Facebook, they all get that stuff. I talked to two people personally to say, you have to get on that call because it's exactly what you need to hear. And guess what? We're going to talk tomorrow about it. I won't be on it. I'm on another call. But you need to be on that call. I trust you're going to get on it. Yeah, I'll get on it. I'll get on it. So regardless of where they stand in their rows of success in this business or skill sets, it doesn't matter. I am going to always be constantly bringing it up to the simple connection. They call it the elevator speech. They call it the 13-second notification. All of that is to be said that you are going to be building in those conversations a rapport with somebody that you can use a Joanne saying, wow, that's really interesting you say that. I happen to have a business that solves a lot of those problems. I ran it on our walk yesterday. We had a brand new neighbor that pulled up the top of the house, the castle house, Rob, up at the top of the corner that just sold. And I met the couple or the guy, and he had a big custom van, kind of like yours, Rob. And he's got a handicapped kid. And met him, nice guy, really a cool dude. And voila, he admitted his wife was vax injured, and she's having a real hard time with it. And he says it's crazy because we don't even go to doctors. Like, oh, you're going to be a close friend because that's exactly what we do. And Joanne just stepped out and she goes, now's not the time to talk about it, but I'd like to meet your wife. That'd be fun. You guys sound like you've been adventurous like we are, and so on. And it was a $1.8 million house. Yeah, they're adventurous, of course. And so voila, there's probably an opportunity here that we could. I have a wellness business that I actually take care of a lot of those circumstances your wife's going through right now. He says, well, she's very holistic. She's probably going to be interested in hearing what you have to say. I parlayed the conversation right to Joanne and gave her the lead. She's answered that question of I help people with that. And now it's into a possible conversation. It doesn't have to be anything super elaborate. It has to be something that's simple. If you want it to duplicate, it has to say simple, which is why we come out of a weekend like we just had, listen to some great speakers and great announcements and great programs for 2026. I can guarantee you Joanna's on the other call right now, and she's going through some of the qualifications that are happening right now, but she's spending the majority of her time talking about getting everybody to St. George.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. That's what the whole emphasis of the call is about, getting everybody to commit to it. Because we know it does the difference. It's not the Dave and Joanne factor. It's not the Chris factor. It's getting the environment to do the work for you. Because people will do what people do. They don't listen to people's comments. We know it. So, Mark, I appreciate your participation in this equation. You are absolutely one of the questions, not only with two executive positions in the company, you have launched many people. You're as skilled and professional at this than I am, but please turn it back to your crowd.
Well, I'm gonna flip it back around. Two great takeaways. Simplify everything and leverage the mud out of this group of leadership. Clear as day. Thank you for that. And the importance of leveraging events. You guys have been around in network marketing for how long?
We got married at 25, so we're 63 right now. That's 40 years ish
So,
where we've
talk.
been a part of this industry.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. I wish we had all night to hear some of the mistakes and some of the lessons that 40 years has brought you guys. But can you think of, like, as you think about your journey, uh, and starting in Amway and these other rodeos, and then ended up in LifeVantage, um, some leadership mistakes that you thought were more important than they were. And I think we heard some of that with simplification. Um, but things that people might underestimate the importance of what to do in leadership. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. I've got some ideas of, and I think some answers that you might have, but I'll just leave
Yeah,
it wide open.
that's a great point. I can tell you our biggest mistake. Our biggest mistake is stepping forward, taking leadership, and not giving leadership back to people.
Mm.
Okay, um, it's not because I wanted it all. I'm the exact opposite. I would rather listen to every one of you on stage than for me to speak. It's not my thing. I don't thrive for that. I also know that if you're up speaking and you're on my team, I'm making more money. This is not hard to figure out, right? Okay, so I just recognize when we took the bull by the horns attitude, and then we didn't give it to enough people fast enough. But it was only because, so the hard lesson, as you ask, Mark, the hard lesson is, was I preparing them enough to take it into leadership? It wasn't me that was giving it to them. It's a baton. It's a baton handoff. They take the baton. It's not a throw the baton to the person and track me. So our one of our biggest mistakes over the years was taking on enough leadership to move our organization forward, but not elevating them enough that they themselves take it on their own accord to move forward. That's why it was significant in December when I'm talking to our executive team, and they broke an executive that they'd never met. Right. So so that was the hardest lesson, and the biggest one is always staying in enrollment mode, because we fell out of it at times. we've always been in it, but never at the massive strength that we always had. And a lot of that comes from too much fast growth mentality. I mean, we launched in 6 weeks from when we started with LifeVantage to when we launched on the 18th. That was a 6 week period of time. We brought 7 people in, and it was 89 people in total. Okay, we had to do a whole lot of figuring things out. And that on the 18th is when we finally got the back office. So that was taking a whole little crap. Now everybody's got to learn the back office, which didn't hardly exist. So it was a quick after a day saying, okay, forget about the back office. They're rebuilding it anyways. Shut up. Don't worry about it. Let's go back to work. Right. And so it, that not showing brand new people all the time was never in our thought repertoire, but because we obligated ourselves to take on so much more leadership for everyone else, we never allowed them to take it from us. And it gave us more of that 80-20 rule, which we spent 80% of building that leadership underneath people. And that's where a lot of our growth happened. And honestly and truthfully, I think a lot of that growth happened in our previous ventures. So by the time we got rolling with this, I think hence that's the reason why our organization, we're 54 in depth underneath Kristen Taylor, and we've been working with her for 5 years now. Right? It took 6 years or whatever to get to her scenario. So we've done a whole lot of growing of leaders in that process, because we've got, I think, I don't know, 19 or 20 executives on the squad. So through that, we've taught a lot of people that taught a lot of people scenario. I don't take credit for that. I just take I take credit for a lot of them. I love the fact when you break executives and you don't know them, that's a really, really, really cool thing. Believe me, that makes life really, really fun. Okay.
It's unbelievable. There's a couple of things that people should know about you guys that we kind of know because we've been around you guys. One is the unbelievable, the astronomical number of miles that you guys put on vehicles, that little red Jeep being one of them. Talk a little bit about that, Dave, because I don't know that people understand the price that you guys have paid to find that team and to build in depth, and to follow that volume wherever it led you. Can you just talk about that mindset? Is that something that you just kind of came out of the womb with? Was that a Dexter Yeager thing? How
Uh,
did you learn that? And when was that a light bulb thing that you saw somebody else do that? Or did you just know that
uh,
that's what you're supposed to do?
no, I think I mean it stemmed from a whole facet of life. I think starting with parents that were mentors of ours till the day they died. To my experience coaching, I started coaching at the age of 18, and coached kids on an Olympic ski team. So that process of understanding how to communicate with people um, sprawled into the equation at a young age. And then building a staff of coaches, and I had to go recruit them, and not afraid to drive the miles to go do that, right? To a lifestyle where I sailed all over the country and I skied all over the world. So I wasn't afraid of boundaries kind of mentality. And I fortunately, I hooked up with a Great Dane that's just, she loves the adventure. And so I don't own a car. I don't own a car that's got less than 250,000 miles on it. And it's not because I've got to keep those cars. It's because I've just learned when you find a solid car, you run it. And if it's not
Yeah.
solid in 6 months, it's gone. I don't keep them.
Yeah.
And so when I find one that's a solid car, I drive them, right? And half of them I donate back. They're not worth anything, quote unquote scenario. So for us on the Jeep, for example, I realized from the experience of the Dexter Yeager thing and that early predecessing aspects of, because that was the only way we were just creating emails back then. The only way you could get to people was to go to their house, right? So I wasn't afraid of doing that, and I was always one that I'd rather stay up too all nighters and have a whole lot more fun than worried about how much sleep I get. It's the first question I'm going to ask the Lord when I meet him. Why did you waste so much time of ours sleeping and eating? Gosh, if you take those two equations out of people's lives, they'd have 10 times the life, right? So I never was afraid of travel, and I always made it an adventure. I always made it something we could do. I also realized really quick in the equation, the sooner I got down in depth underneath people, if I came from out of town, my my respect in their position of life, if I'm driving 5 hours to their house and I've never met them except on a phone call, and there's five people in between us, and they introduced us, on a phone call, and now I'm driving 5 hours to come see them, I don't even have to walk into that room. They are elevating me like I'm the second coming. They think I'm the magic of life, right? So I, I think that awareness of me extending myself to others at something they're not sure they would do either drove a wedge into the point where they realize I can't do that and not willing to do that. And whatever it is I'm going to get out of it is not worth it. But ultimately, it gave them the holy crow. I've never had anybody come into my life that was willing to do something like this for me.
Yeah.
And that's when you get down to the real root of relationships, like we got with the Harrises right quick,
Yeah.
because we had grown up in a similar mindset of life that I'm willing to go after it and drive the miles. And why not? Why not? If you're looking for people to that want to be like you, that think like you, that prosper like you, that your kind of people, we all want those kind of people. We want our tribe. Why wouldn't we go to them? Who cares if it's 10 hours away?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you guys are the quintessential role models for falling in love with that behavior of getting in the car and doing face to face. I remember got a call from Dave and Joe. They were coming through Kansas City, and he was going to Jamesport to meet a guy named Harvey,
Harvey.
and grabbed me. We went to Jamesport, had a killer lunch at the Wagon Wheel or wherever that place
Yeah.
was. It was awesome. And what struck me was, and we had, we've got people in our organization that came and supported us, and we've driven all over creation to go build volume other places. But I think one of the really great things I watch you and Joe do, and so many others, Marcel and Tyler, Rob and Summer have done this. I watch Candy doing it now, Chris and Sarah, just people putting in the time and the effort to go lend that belief so that they do have the confidence to take the baton.
Mm-hmm.
To your other point, like how do you instill that belief? Well, you go and you
Mm-hmm.
let them know they're valued and they're loved and they're appreciated and they can do this. And I think you guys have been just some of the best, the poster children of building depth with your face, like going and getting in the room in front of people. And so how would you, and it's a leading question, it's a T-ball question. Social media is everywhere now. And it's so the Zoom platform, I can, Krista was on a Zoom with American Samoa this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Way easier than buying tickets to American Samoa, although I love our leaders there and I'd love to hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, just a word of encouragement on how to balance that, because there's so much noise. There's so many people at corporate events talking about how to build. Just can you just hammer that home just a little bit and say, if I were
Yeah.
you, what would you do in the world of digital marketing and social media? And
Yeah, as you know, I'm not in that fence at all. I don't even have a Facebook account. I have a LinkedIn account. I use Joanne's Facebook account, so we use that as a tool, just like we use email. And I'm not against social media. I just know for me, it's a time suck. So the more I can take away those obstacles, the better off I am. So um, I think ultimately, you're going to use the tools that are there for you, and you're going to use them to their best advantage. Okay. I personally, I believe that if I want to be an influence in someone's life, I have to be with them, because we all know that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And for me, offering somebody, whether it's in Hawaii, like for you're talking about Samoa, or Alaska, or Europe, been there, for our business, Philippines, etc. We've been we've spent our $3,000, quote unquote, right? I, the trips since you guys met the guys from Tulsa that came in the equation at the last building depth here in September. I've been to Tulsa 5 times. Okay, you just add them up. How many? Whether it's a $500 bill or $1,000 bill, you figure it out. And if you get them to SC3, how much money do you think you're making on an SC3? It's not the three or four or $5,000 I've spent. Or you look at it from this perspective. How many miles did I have Kinsey in the car doing side saddle work going up and down the road? How many times have I had James Hayden between Indiana and Colorado? We've been in the car 100 hours. I can tell you, I make a whole lot more than an SC3 on those guys. So right. So you have to look at it from a long-term perspective. And I think one of the biggest challenges, I'll go off on a rail trail, I think one of the biggest problems we have with the social media aspect is there's a barrier that never gets really taken into effect, which is the relationship that you get from the social media aspect. No different than you can understand the difference between actually texting somebody to get on the phone call versus the 2 phone calls I made with people to get them on Joanne's phone call. I got commitment on both the guys that I personally reached out because they know how much I care, right? So I can't do that with everybody, right? Like I question whether I should even talk to this kid that's 18 years old, and I know he's got ADHD, ADHD. I'm like, gosh, right? But I scored because he figured out all he's got to do is take down a couple notes on, and he's a homeschool kid, so he's used to doing something on his own. All I got to do is take down a couple notes on each one of the products, and then I can start the conversation and pass it off to mom or her or him and me, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, I can do that. Is that not a win?
Yep. Yep.
I don't give a crap what product he likes. If I
Right.
can get him to do that, is that the win? That's the win that everybody wants.
Well, and here's what's more, the executive that figures out or finds that kid that is actually able to have success with a system that they can follow and they stand up on that stage and they tell the world, that's like alchemy. Like that opens up that whole demographic to LifeVantage, to Activation Nation, because we don't have that many of those 18-year-olds standing on our stage as executives right now. We used to. We had Sarah Foltz and Tim Cox
Yeah,
and some of
yeah,
those, early teen or late teen, early young adults.
yeah.
And they're coming. So we
Oh,
know.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is it worth it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Let's kick it around the horn here. We got 27 minutes. No, that's not right. 17 more minutes. We've got some executives on here. Chris, Rob.
Yes, definitely.
Um,
It's
yeah.
Candy. Mm-hmm.
Thoughts? Good stuff, Dave.
Light them up, guys.
Yeah, love that, Dave. I know that subject really just launching the team, and I think tool wise, and I know you've all probably checked it out and heard this, but buildingdepth.com, really utilize that website, get your teams plugged in. It might be a calling card. It might get them plugged in to get to events, but when you click on the events tab, it's just got everything laid out, even all the corporate events, and just no reason why they shouldn't be plugged into that formula of 1 event per year. But I know that's not your entire team. So what Dave and Mark alluded to, I will just fully support. It's building the relationships, exercising that principle of staying in control of your business. So I don't want to take up too much of the time, but I'll just share real quick. This is a group we've got going in Utah. This took, we've been here 3 years. Heather Marvel's our hairdresser. She was like distributor number 11 at doTERRA and decided to do nothing with it and watch people become millionaires. That was
Mm-hmm.
her story. But she does understand this business. She just didn't have the energy for it. So she told Sarah, look, I'm not going to do this, but we live in a valley of 2,500 people. There's 900 people in our town. She knows everyone. So Sarah's like, look, just introduce us to people. Don't even pitch LifeVantage, just introduce us to people. She becomes a consultant, introduces me to Don Smurl, who a bunch of you know. I play in a band with Don Smurl. So played with Don for a while. Then I introduce him to this. He gets on some products. I pitch him the business, the whole story. 14 days later, he gets in. His friend Courtney, Don had a life sucking job. He couldn't go meet with Courtney, but Sarah went and did the meeting, like Dave was talking about, built the relationship. And then Gina Myberg. So this took a few years to do. And then from Dixie Knoll all the way down, all these people, that happened in 2 months, the last 2 months,
Boom, 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 boom,
right
boom.
now. And then the leader down here is all the way down here is Michelle Holmes. She's booking the big space for the big meetings and standing up in front of the room, even though we have this whole group. And Jerry and Todd down here at the bottom's in Dallas. So it'll be Michelle and Sarah going to Dallas to work with Jerry and Todd. And there's a bunch of other people in there too. So it takes the time, but you got to get to know all these people and exercise those other principles of doing what you say you're going to do, which is a wide principle of being a good person so that all these people want to let you into their living room. Anyway, that's my piece, Dave.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. And
That's really great.
I did all that following you and following Mark and Robin Summer and all of the examples of the other executives at Building Depth. So I'm really grateful. And you mentioned Dexter Yeager. I was just studying him today and where all this came from.
Yeah.
Some really smart people, guys, who made more money than anyone in the industry of network marketing taught us this. And it got passed down to me and my wife. And I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so awesome, Chris. That is such the example. It's like, how do you go 6 years to get a Kristen Taylor? And she builds it to, back then it was Pro 2, Pro 3, Pro 4, and Pro 5 in successive months. Well, she'd already done Amway. She already knew these principles. And when we said this is what we do, she went to work. You're exactly right. Took 6 years. Was it worth it? Yep, exactly. Go ahead. Who's Rob? Candy, jump in here.
I can go. I'm just waiting for Candy to unmute if she wanted to go.
There she is.
Yeah,
There she is.
we'll go beauty
Go ahead,
before
Rob.
age. Beauty before age. Or with go ahead, Candy. I got tons of notes over here. I'm gonna freaking tear this place up. Go ahead, Candy.
Oh my gosh, what an incredible call. Everybody, Dave, Mark, this Chris, what you had to say in your example, showing us the example, like it's I love this whole call. I was driving throughout most of it and I like to take notes. So I might have to rewatch this one, but really it's about leveraging the system, right? It's about taking it back to simplicity and just showing up for people, creating that relationship, making sure that they know that, when you're launching your team, like they have to trust you first. They have to know that you're going to show up for them. They have to know that you're a person of your word and that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And I think that's the foundation, is that trust and that love and building those relationships. And from there, plugging people into such a simple, duplicatable system, like the simplicity of leveraging the system, you know what I mean? When you can get people to attend the events, like how many people in your group are attending the the upcoming Building Depth training in February? Like, because that's going to, that art of promotion and getting people in front of these leaders, these Building Depth leaders, and getting people to the events, that's going to build your business faster than anything else when you know where to lead people to get the information. And so this was literally such an amazing call. Thank you so much, Dave, for all of your expertise and your years and years and years and years and years of experience, because I learned a lot on this call. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you, sweetheart. You guys do realize that we're no different than everybody else. We just happen to learn it in the calendar of life sooner than you did. That's it. That's the absolute it. I don't plagiarism, man. I love it. We used to get in trouble with it in school, and all we do is plagiarize it, right? So we just practiced it longer, We still suck at it because I'm not presidential, but I'm figuring it out. Go ahead, Mr. Rob.
Hi, Dave, man. What an awesome call. Yeah, you guys, great. I think we figured out pretty quickly in you guys that logic doesn't move people, emotion does. So when I'm doing a presentation where you're talking to your group, it's like that passion, that excitement, that emotion has to come behind it. Because like even if we're doing a presentation in a downline or for ourselves, like I might throw the numbers out there, I might throw the ABC primetime out there, but it just isn't throwing it out there. There's emotion, a massive emotion behind it, right? The way we explain the comp plan, there's lots of emotion behind it because that moves people. Just throwing numbers out there, talking to science, that doesn't move people at all. And when people are moved is when they take action, right? You know, we hear Marcel say, "Oh, I was so inspired by you." You people got to be inspired, or they're not going to move. And so that's one of the big things that we really focus on. But we started teaching and pushing towards 2026, what was going to happen months ago. Like we started months ago with our group setting up for 2026. You know, and you got the Achievers Retreat. We've already got it printed out. We've already got a call over it. We've already went over every scenario. If you're a consultant, if you're a consultant, this is what you need to do. If you're an SC1, this is what you need to do. If you're an SC2, this is what you need to do. It's all the way up to EC1. We already went over that, right? On how to do that. And so we push and we build from incentive to incentive. If they don't win it, that's okay. But at least if they're trying for it and they're shooting for it, good things are going to happen, right? Good things will happen. And I've always been, you guys know when I got in business, I didn't like people. I didn't trust people. I didn't even want to be around people 9 years ago. I was so beat up in life. And the longer I was inside of this business, I never regret meeting anyone, right? Because good people, they're always going to kind of bring happiness. Right? Bad people, they'll teach you lessons, right? The worst people, you get experiences, but the best people are memories. And I've always tried to tell myself that, even when there's sometimes you want to grab somebody by the neck. They came into my life for a reason, even if it's a validation 40 levels deep. That person's on a call with me for something. Maybe it's a good learning experience for me, right? So I try to absorb all of that, and I'm definitely getting better at with some of the challenges that have come up this last year with me and some with health and different things like that. So we're starting to do that. But we focus on this. We focus, you guys, you got to be a promoter. You've got to get people to a business. I've said this a million times on this call. I would rather have an SC2 come to Building Depth with 10 people in his group than an MC2 that's by themselves.
Amen.
Because that SC2 will pass that MC2 like they're standing still. Here's an example, you guys. You guys all remember Kristen Bailey?
Yeah.
Out of California. Sweetheart, love her. I mean, she's called me in summer many times in years past. She spoke in New Orleans on a leadership stage with Tyler Daniels. And in front of all those leaders, she said, "I don't have any teamies here." And I'm like, you have nobody in your group in New Orleans, and you're on a leadership stage. And I asked Tyler when we got done, I go, "Dude, why in the hell would you call her up there to do that?" He goes, "Rob, I didn't know. I would assume as an executive, nobody." Did you know during the GLP-1 launch, she went EC2? Do you know where she's at now? She's gone. Gone. Angie Harper called me. She goes, "Rob, what happened?" I go, "Angie, I told you a year and a half ago what's going to happen with Kristen." I go, "Remember what I told you?" You go, "Yeah, she's not a promoter. Her team is not coming to the trainings or conventions. So that's not a solid business. It's just pie in the sky, short term, and it'll go away." And Angie's like, "You did tell me that a year and a half ago." I said, "Angie, like it's a people business. People are predictable. If they're not promoting, their business will go up and it'll come right back down 100% of the time. They've got to be doing that." And so that's what we focus on, you guys. And get your group to understand that they don't have to be a passenger in their own ride, right? Take the wheel. Like at some point, they got to be the driver. And so encourage them. Like Dave said, don't just throw a baton at them. Let them grab it, but still guide them along the way. Like I didn't just jump in a car with my driver's ed teacher and I just didn't throw it in drive and go. Like I had to take a little bit of class. He had to get me in there. He had a brake on his side of the car. Like I still have a brake when I drive with other people on my side, but they're really not a brake, but I act like there's a brake, right? Because I'm kind of a control freak. Like if I was with Heather, I want to brake on the other side, right? Well, chances are she's probably going to run out of gas before I have to brake anyway, because that happens. Or we're driving the wrong way. And so I think it's a lot of that, you guys. You got to keep it simple, but you still got to get them setting goals for themselves, right? They got to write those goals down, but they got to put action out there to get it. Because if they're not promoting and they're not having fun, they're going to quit, right? If they don't feel like they feel like they're somebody, if they're not don't feel like they're making a difference. Like you've got to do all that for them. Right. So I hope that helped you guys. Like we already got just people in our group, like already running. We got people that already got points. We've already started talking to them. What do we need to do? Because I have a triangle in life, guys. This is what I do. At the very top of that triangle, I have an income. I put income. Then the right side of the triangle, what do I put? I put lifestyle. And then the left side of the triangle, where I put impact. What gives you a better income? The bigger impact you have. What gives you a better lifestyle? Well, the bigger income you have. If you don't have impact, those other two don't mean anything. Because I could have income and my lifestyle might be great, but if I'm selling drugs, what kind of impact am I really having? Not a very good impact, right? That is not good. So service to many leads to greatness. And if you serve the masses, you'll live with the classes. So the more people you serve, the bigger you're going to be. And so always kind of keep that triangle in line. Because I know people that make a great income, they have a great lifestyle, but the impact they make on people's lives, it's horrible and they're miserable. That was me before I got involved in this business 9 years ago. I could make a lot of money, but I was miserable, right? I had the income. I had the lifestyle, but not really, because I didn't have time to spend time with my family. So they had the lifestyle, but I didn't. And the impact, and I was paying employees and I was putting food on their table. What really kind of an impact was I really making in their life? I wasn't helping them get really any further because they just worked for a paycheck. And if you're working for a paycheck, the chance of you living a life of bliss and retiring at 65 is slim to none. So you have to go make an impact. And so that's how we in Summer center our life, right? Those three in that triangle. And other people explain it differently. But for me, with my brain, with the ADHD, those three simple little letters. You know, like Summer said the other day, we have an income goal for the next 6 months where we want to be. And really, like, we've got a goal. And I said, okay, this is our impact. We gotta double our impact if we want it to be balanced, you know, with the lifestyle and stuff like that. I hope that helps you guys. But grab onto your people and run with them. Don't tell them what to do. Do it with them.
Amen.
Right? Okay.
So
thanks, guys.
for everybody paying attention, that the last 2 minutes is worthy of a 3-hour conversation to talk about how to present this business to people. And if you're effective in explaining and helping walk people through what Rob just said, a $70 bottle of Protandim will not be an obstacle. A $200 healthy glow stack, whatever, will not be an obstacle. A $1,000 enrollment pack will not be an obstacle to people. It won't even be a primary part of the conversation. It'll be what do I have to do? And that'll be like, okay, I'm in, right? Man, Mikey, write that down. We need to come back to that talking point. Dave, last word. What one commitment, if you could ask your leadership, if you could ask these leaders and the leaders in your team, if you'll make this one commitment, I believe it'll make a change for you in 2026. That's a hard one. I know. You got one?
I do. I do. Set a goal for the 12 months before you start doing a Christmas list in December that you have to have 5 new relationships between now and next Christmas list, that they are the first 5 that you're going to send out to your loved ones. It's going to take a lot of work to get to that level. It's not just I can send it out because I have their address. It's the complete opposite. That is the most important critical factor of everyone's success. Let me give you one story to close this out, Mark.
Yeah.
I may. Y'all realize we've been talking about it for a long time that, yes, social media influencers, all that stuff's coming into the equation and it's going right out the back door. We all know it. It's 20% retention rate. The whole industry has been saying it, and that's why you can't go to anybody that has flipped out of the network marketing industry into the influencing world, doesn't have common ground, seminars, rallies, institutions, etc. I'll tell you how it's even further. Right now, it's so deep into them trying to institute multiple organizations and multiple companies into one spin, and it's failing so miserably, they're losing everything. Let me tell you something on the complete opposite to prove my point. Our kids' closest friends, dear friends of ours, they're in their 30s. She has had a travel blog with 1 million on every platform. And she's written books in the whole 9 yards. She started 2 years ago after a trip to Germany with us, talking about this same thing of how are you creating a relationship with those followers? Because you know they're going to die off. And he goes, yeah, I can see that. That's why I started writing books. Bingo. They got to get more revenue, right? And she said, and we are literally on the Rhine River on a cruise vessel. And I said to him, I said, you have to figure out a way with all of your influence, you have to figure out a way to create deeper relationships with every one of them so then they can parlay the relationship forward to others. 3 years to the now. They sold out their first cruise in 18 minutes. They designed a cruise where they leased out a cruise vessel, had 200 people on it, and sold it out in 18 minutes. They did one 6 months later, and they sold it out in less than that time. Last year, they had 4 cruise vessels that they planned, and they hit times with each one of them throughout the year. They will have 9 already in 2026. By 2027, they'll have too many for all the shores that they got to hit. They'll be completely done. And their purpose is to create the following, not the influence, but the following due to the relationships. The world is changing, and everything continues to come back to the deep-hearted relationship that everybody wants. How many people have relatives right now that their kids are on with their friends that are in other parts of the countries, and they're playing video games every Wednesday night with all the cousins that are doing the whole thing? That's their connect. People want it.
Yep.
So start focusing on it. It starts with your own personal development to make sure you have influence in others to make them feel their best. Mark, thank you so much for this. Thanks for everyone that participated. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, fantastic call. Find those 5 people and say, we can do this. We need the leadership. You can totally do this. Who do we need to go talk to? And your 2026 will be different. That's what I'm doing. That is one commitment that I've made to myself. We got some new folks in Nashville, and we're going to go run. And wherever that volume goes, that's where we're going to go. Dave, fantastic job. Rob, Chris, love you guys. Candy, fantastic. Just great call. Mikey, thank you as always. You're beautiful and wonderful. So with that, that's a wrap. January 13th, 2026. We'll see y'all in St. George coming up in about 4 or 5 weeks. Is that right?
Got it.
If you haven't booked your room and you haven't booked your flights, you need to get on it. Those are only going to go up from now. So with that, thanks, Dave. Good night, everybody. Love y'all.
Blessings. Thanks, Mark.
You bet.
Great
Thank
job.
you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mikey.
Mikey.